How are you guys? Can you hear me?
Yes. Hello. Can you hear me?
Hi.
No.
Can you hear me? No?
I can hear Chris and I can
Yes,
hear Wan-Chi. Good
I
morning.
cannot hear
me
you.
too.
You cannot hear Qing?
Can-
Can you hear?
There we go.
Yeah, you can hear me?
Hi.
How are you? I'm so sorry about your mom. Thank you
That's
so much
okay.
for
Thank
joining.
you.
Yeah. But
That
you're
was a
home
beautiful
Can
now.
you hear me?
concert.
From
Yes.
I cannot
yeah.
hear you. I don't know why. Now I can hear you. I don't know why it's...
Oh,
You mean you couldn't hear both of us?
Yeah, I don't understand why, but let me try this again.
Okay.
Okay, now I can. Wonderful. So
Hello. Can you hear us?
I can hear you now. So we'll just
and
wait.
me?
I can,
Okay.
yes. We'll just wait one moment
Good
and
morning.
allow people to hop over to this channel. But so we'll just give everybody just a moment. If you are joining us already, folks who are watching, feel free to put any comments or questions into the chat feature, and we will do our best to acknowledge them and to answer them. Don't be shy, please. So anyway, why don't we get started? Thank you guys so much for a wonderful performance, Qing and Wan-Chi. It's so lovely to see you again, and we filmed this a couple weeks ago, and we're so happy to be able to now share it. I wonder if you guys might give us a sense of how you chose the program, and what about this music might be particularly special to you, or what you wanted to share during this time.
Well, first of all, thank you so much, Chris, for inviting us for your beautiful new series, and thank you, Wan-Chi, for playing for me in a kind of very quick 2 weeks a time. I think because me and Wan-Chi had done Piotr Foundation for last year extensively for certainly the Revell was on the program already, and then we thought in 2 weeks' time and that would have been a good choice, solid choice.
Mm-hmm.
And then the data that I have done many times, but when she actually, first time she actually learned the piece, I want to say less than 2 weeks.
That's
Although
amazing.
she worked with the cellist for Debussy, so she obviously is fantastic pianist and she understands the style of it. But again, it's very tricky to, the pacing and all of it, that the craft of it. So uh, bravo, really amazing to that. So we thought maybe if that's a possibility. I thought it would be a really good program. And it's a beautiful, just beautiful music.
Yeah.
And in this difficult time, why not to enjoy some good music? That's it.
Of course.
And Wan-Chi, any addition to our choices of these two pieces?
Well, I've been wanting to learn Debussy for a very long time, but just didn't have a chance. And so I'm very glad to have this opportunity and to be in the production. Um, I really loved Ravel Sonata, and every time I play it, I feel like I'm growing from the previous experience. This time, I think the church, the environment helped us so much. Don't you think, Ching? That all the echoes and the acoustic really helps us to listen to each other and bring out the texture, um, especially the first movement, I think.
Yeah. There's a question in the chat as to how much practice did it take you, Wan-Chi, to learn it? These are two of your students, Maxwell and
Oh,
Mackenzie.
oh yeah, right. So for that's the first piece that I learned it in a short time. I would say that I just a few pages a day.
Yeah, well, the Revell is one of my favorite pieces, and when you guys told me that you were thinking about doing that, I was so thrilled because I think it's just such a beautiful, inventive way of writing for the violin and the piano together, and the interplay,
Definitely.
which our crew, Nick Hughes, who did the editing, and the visual interplay and the way that he showed that musical kind of like fun, like I thought was just so beautiful. So it was really, really lovely to share that. And the American influence in that piece, like it's not so often that the French draw lots of inspiration from us Americans.
Well,
So
that's not true always, but obviously Revell was very smitten and fascinated by the American jazz music at the time. So the second movement, obviously, he was inspired to write the blues, and the violin was really the what's the word for the instrument for. He was thinking of saxophone, and then the piano is the guitar,
of course.
or upright bass their ways. So it's the rhythm and but the first movement of Revell is so ethereal and flowing. In fact, it's a kind of funny thing to share with the audience is that he noted when Revell wrote this, he actually took him 4 years to write it, and he wrote the first movement for essentially called very different incompatible instruments.
Mm-hmm.
So after the piano, such a gorgeous flowing movement, and then the violin comes in, and you were doing two different things as two different contrasting things to do. It's very interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and the last movement, obviously, it's a moto perpetuo, so of a dazzling of virtuoso violin activities, and the piano. It's also very tricky because it's doing all different kind of stuff, and also the reminiscing of some of the first movement things, and the ending was just spectacular ending, isn't it? Great piece.
Yeah. I wonder if you guys might talk a little bit about kind of the act of collaboration between the two of you and how that's different from your own solo work when you're playing alone, or in Qing, your case, leading a section of an orchestra. Like, what is a different dynamic that you experience?
For me, it's a sheer joy because for me, orchestra work, it's symphonic work that in a different ways is fantastic, but it's a lot of responsibilities. My, you know, coordinating with other principals and conductors, and my own responsibility with section works, and playing with Wan-Chi. It's such a joy, musically speaking, and for fun. We get on quite well, which is very important.
Yes.
Playing tour, like spending driving time and eating together and work together. I think that's for me playing chamber music sonatas or this kind of work. It's so intimate and it's just joy, and we have such a also freedom to choose artistically, choose what fits what we would like to for programming and making contrasting programs or whatever it is, to our heart prefers, basically. Wan-Chi?
Yes, I totally agree. Especially freedom part. And what's even more exciting is sometimes you don't know what to expect. You expect something, but it doesn't mean the other person would do the same. And so, in the meantime, you're learning how to be flexible to a good way,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's something I find might be different from playing solo work or even in orchestra. I was on the orchestra player. Like you're following some, everything is planned, even though there's some flexibility, but less. It's well rehearsed. But in the chamber music, it's well rehearsed. But who knows? In a concert, you might be inspired by the audience, might be inspired by the environment, the light, the wind, the breeze, air. I mean, so it could change just a little bit. And being flexible, you could respond to the others. And sometimes it creates a nice vibes, but sometimes it doesn't work. But you constantly find it as you're performing it. I think it's thrilling.
Absolutely.
I think that's kind of, I'm sorry, I'm
No.
thinking of a jazz musician, right? I mean, the listening is the most important thing, but our classical musicians, we built to practice 8 hours a day from our childhood. So that's what I talk to my students a lot. So listening and collaboration becomes essentially more important than anything else in the ways, because chamber music, it's the start of this collaboration, smaller ensemble, and then you do orchestra, it's the same. You still have to listen. And then if your soloist playing concerto, the whole orchestra, you still have to listen more carefully. And the conductor, everything is all about collaboration and listening in the end. So then it's fun, because every concert hall is another instrument that it's alive, right?
Yes.
So that's a challenge, also it's the fun of it.
Yeah, absolutely. So you guys both have deep roots in Baltimore at this point, it seems. Tell me about your relationship with Peabody and the orchestra, and what drew you to this place?
Wan-Chi, please.
Yes, I was once a grad student at Peabody, finishing my last degree there. Currently, that's my first school in the state, and hopefully the last one too. And I've been here. I travel to different places, but it happens to be I have more chances staying. So even I had opportunity to go out to the state to study, I chose to stay, and it brought me lots of good fortune. I get to know people like you and local organizations, and I start teaching at Peabody. I met wonderful people, wonderful supporter, and wonderful audience, friends. I don't know about future, but I love it.
That's all. Just so, what was your question again? But roots?
Yeah, I mean, it seems like you've settled like in Baltimore. I mean, Shane, you've been here now for 25 years, I guess. Sorry, I read it in your bio. Like,
Yeah, I was 3. So,
yes,
yeah.
exactly.
Yes, that's right. I was actually I went to Peabody as well, and then it's kind of full circle now that I teach at Peabody. I'm the faculty. So this Baltimore is really second home. I've been here much longer than being in China. Yeah, I mean, I was born there. So I have to say all my musical sort of work and the platform is from here. And I know a lot of friends, neighbors, and colleagues. So it's really wonderful. I think it's a wonderful city to live in and work, because it's easy to travel to get to, and a lot of art scene and music, and lots of interesting people for sure. I love it. Yeah.
But you still have strong roots in China, including with the National Youth Orchestra. And I wonder if you might tell us a little bit about that program.
Oh yeah, so this is kind of we're trying to train. It's a music festival. We're trying to train the next generation of lots of Chinese kids that they love music and invested into classical music, and try to give them some kind of environment and cultural sort of experiences. And some of my students are from China. Actually comes from that group. It's a summer festival. We usually our residencies somewhere in Asia. The first year was in New York, and then the students would, after the residency, they would be taught by like me or all these major symphony orchestra in U.S. and Europe's principal players, to give them more so than just technical advices, because they're all fantastic, had fantastic trainings already. These young musicians from 14 to 21, but what they need is to be experience and acknowledgement to become a good musicians, collaborate, playing what we're doing, chamber music, orchestra things. So that's the mission of it's very. I mean, for me, it's kind of the best of both worlds. I get the chance to go to Asia in the summer, and now because due to COVID, that everything is online, which is more convenient. So I'm able to teach some master classes. So they it's a meshed world these days. Anyways, it's a good thing.
There's a question in the chat. Are there any programs or places in Baltimore that you wish got more attention? I assume that's an arts-focused question.
You mean
that you want to maybe something that you want to highlight that maybe we're not aware of that you're involved in?
I think this series is a wonderful series. I think
Well,
first of all, Chris, I mean, thank you for my good friend Larchisar introduced us, to you to, and I think it's a marvelous. It's just the first season for you. I think I wish that we have more of this kind of local platforms that do music, chamber music, solo things, recitals. I think you might invited quite a few of musicians.
yeah, I mean, hopefully we'll continue either virtually or in person. I mean, Emmanuel Church really sees itself centered in Mount Vernon neighborhood, just up the street from the hall, from the Symphony Hall, and around the corner from Peabody, as wanting to be an arts center, and has a long tradition of that. And living into that in this way during this COVID times, I think, is important. So forcing us to experience and to try new things. And this series is one of those avenues. So we're thrilled. Just a reminder to people who might be watching, if you do have other questions, please don't hesitate to put them in the chat, and we'll try to answer them in the next couple minutes. I noticed that each of you started playing your instruments at age 4. And I wonder if you have a feeling about starting that early, and whether that living into that whole experience of your life, or maybe starting at that age, had any particular influence in your trajectory.
Wan-Chi, any thoughts?
Yes, maybe I can share some. I think the starting age, of course, it matters, but that doesn't mean like the earlier you start, the better you will get. The advantage of getting it early is you develop your listening earlier, and rhythm make sense. And that's like when I was 4, of course, I have no idea what's rhythm, right? You just follow. All you do is imitate and follow. So that's the first stage of learning. So that you can get. But if you started later, you have a better sense of understanding how it works. 7 or 8, or even later 10, I have met wonderful, amazing musicians. Even later, they started high school. They have amazing skills. It doesn't really matter, but I think it's just a lifelong interest and habit.
Yeah.
For me, it doesn't really matter how early you start.
Yeah, I think pretty much I agree with Wan-Chi. I think every individual person's different, and depending on the level of talent and the investment of your commitment at that age, or whatever the age is. For me, certainly, these days, I always confess that I didn't love music to start. I didn't know better. My father started me. I was that typical child, had the stage father kind of thing. So I was in the ways pushed to start at 4 until when I very much left home, until I come very free. Then, I had to learn discipline and really, truly the love of music. I was talking to my old teacher at Peabody, G. He was also watching us, and he was congratulating us. I'm like, essentially, the music has to go beyond the instrument, right? When we're little, it's young man's game. You do have to acquire a lot of technical abilities for fundamental things, but essentially, what the mechanics has to serve for your musical ideas. Otherwise, you can't really. And also, it's a kind of communication two-way street with the audience, where as a performer, we're inviting the audience to be in the space with us. So I think, I do think younger to start, it's more, shall we say, you have a leg up physically to set that foundation, so you can be freer in some ways. But I don't think, I mean, beyond 10 years old, if you want to learn piano or violin, I mean, truthfully, it's a very difficult instrument to learn. Then it becomes very hard. And then kids have schools and things, so other activities. So I would recommend if the parents can start the kids before 10 or maybe 7, 8, the latest, the possible, as
Sure.
early as possible.
I wonder if you might just speak a moment, each of you, about what music making has meant for you during COVID. Because obviously our lives have changed so much. The symphony's not playing. I guess they're now playing a little bit, and doing some recording as well. But each of you play an instrument that you can just practice at home. And I wonder if you just might talk about what music has meant to you during this time of change, um, and maybe even talk about the loss that you feel, if there is any, as well.
I think I think the first thing comes to my mind is Wan-Chi and I, because the BSO shut down in March, and Wan-Chi and I, we did this BSO's Facebook live streaming series, this wonderful series, and then we did this June at home live streaming, actually live in real time. We walked out into the camera, and I didn't. That was the strangest thing. I didn't hear any clap. I mean, I expect anything, but just then I said that's such a strange silence. So that's one thing that I miss live audience. Now we're used to this.
Mm-hmm.
Let's hope not too long that we can get our audience back. I think that's the first thing. But the other thing is, for me personally, other than playing with Wan-Chi, this is our second sort of online streaming concert. We do quite a few projects for coaching for Youth Orchestra, Baltimore Symphony Youth Orchestra, the BSO projects, and I do some of the. I had just 12-hour, like 8 master classes for NYL China online that we did that whole series of different portion of technique and music and period, all that stuff. So I do my own project, but essentially it's time off to be reflective and practice skills and get back to actually the basics. Because usually we're lucky that we have a lot of projects as a musician. Everybody knows we need work, right?
Mm-hmm.
So actually, if we're lucky that we're working musicians, but now that we're less busy in the ways, it can be, sometimes I have to say, it can be depressing and up and downs, but it's going back to the drawing board to do things that usually when we're traveling too much we don't have to do, which is really, I think it's important too. And I spend time with my students online, actually, Peabody students, so it's great. Yeah.
Wan-Chi?
Yeah, I agree. Let me think about what I was going to say. Sorry. Yeah, definitely you have way more time than previous, previous years. I know this, they can go two ways. In my opinion, I can go really critical on my own playing, or I can be so relaxed that I don't care. And it happened to me both. Yeah. Because I don't have that many concerts to push me into playing. So when I really do have a concert, I practice harder than usual because I know that we don't have enough rehearsal, and I know that that's the only concert we will be playing. So it has to be some kind of level already. You can't practice on stage. So that it's a process of improvement. Actually, I like that because usually when I have too many concerts, I just improve through concerts rather than improve for practice. Sorry, I hope my teacher's not listening. And but like Qing said, it could be kind of upsetting sometimes because you're not busy and you feel at times like, what's the point? But that's briefly. You have friends, you have a supporter, and we're all positive most of the time. And we find things to do. And like Qing said, I'm also teaching online with my students. I love it. I do. I mean, sometimes I don't. I know it's hard for them. It's hard for me, but it's a different way. We are all learning new things. So I see positive things on this COVID.
Yeah. Well, we're definitely all being forced to grow in new ways. And this series, as we said before, is a way that this community called Emmanuel is growing. So we thank each of you for being a part of this and for presenting such an amazingly beautiful program this evening. And we hope that you will come back once we can open our doors properly and share your music in person with our community and with the world. So thank you to each of you. It's been so lovely to get to know you over these past several weeks, and I appreciate your effort to not only come in and practice and perform this program for us, but also to join us this evening. So, and I should say the Wan-Chi is joining us all the way from in Taiwan. So she's gotten up early to help us this evening, since it's Thursday morning there.
Sounds beautiful. And also congratulations to Chris, that you wonderful pianist, and Jevons Chandler is one of my favorite sopranos. I mean, she's the homegrown international sopranos that we used to, the last time I remember we did with her years ago, Strauss's 4 Last Songs, it was just gorgeous.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you missed the program from 2 weeks ago, find it on our YouTube channel. It is there. And I hope that you will come back every 2 weeks for the foreseeable future. Next time on December 2nd, we have a wonderful newly local tenor, Andrew Brown, who is performing Art Song of Gerald Finzi, the English composer, with Shakespearean texts and Mozart and Samuel Barber. So I'm very much looking forward to that. And then a Christmas program in mid-December. So join us, but until then, thank you both, and share the program around, like spread it far and wide, and have everybody enjoy this beautiful program. So thank you all.
Bravo, bravo.
Thank you.
Thank you.